Good evening. We're here for day 10. It's the 10th of January, day 10. It means chapter 10 of Proverbs. Starting the year with Proverbs. We're doing a chapter a day. It's not too late to jump on board. It's never too late, actually. You can go back and read it at your pleasure. But we're in chapter 10. So today is the first day that we're in the second part of Proverbs. So the first part of Proverbs is chapters 1 to 9. It's like an introduction. It's kind of some poems and homilies and, just sharing about Proverbs from a bird's eye view. And now we're going to kind of go in the last chapter, it was talking about the feast that you can have at the house of wisdom and the pseudo feast that you can have, the emptiness that you can have at the house of folly. So today we're going to start feasting. We're going to start dining on these morsels. We've got the Proverbs of Solomon begins here in chapter 10. Now, there's a thing that I found. I was like, surely someone has done a thing where they have organized the Proverbs by theme. And I see that some people have done some stuff like that, but nothing's complete. So there's something possibly for the future. Maybe 2026. Maybe in 2026 we could do something like that. Sharon is messaging me and saying, can you put the number? I don't know why it's not, but I have it in the video title here that it's, and in YouTube it's coming up. So I guess Facebook is just not coming up. But, like on the 10th, it's chapter 10. But yeah, I could possibly go back and edit that, Sharon. But I'm just going to turn down my sound so that's not coming through here. But yeah, we will. What we will do is we'll start through here. But yeah, this idea of Proverbs thematically. Maybe I'll do that in 2026 or start something because people have started things, and there's this thing that I found called Proverbs Project, and it's obviously something that someone started but never finished. There's 11 themes that it has here. 11 themes. Theme 1 is the fear of Yahweh and accepting correction. Theme 2 is God's wisdom and sovereignty. Theme 3 is laziness and work ethic. Theme 4 is avoiding evil and seeking good. Theme 5 is pride and humility. Theme 6 is conflict and strife. Theme 7 is children and parenting. Theme 8 is generosity and greed. And I think there's going to be overlap. I don't think you could color code just one color for each thing, because I'm like, there are some things which seem to be dealing with multiple, there's crossover here. So maybe that's something that would be needing to be figured out. Generosity and greed is number 8. Number 9 is wise and foolish words. 10 is honesty and dishonesty. 11 is poverty and wealth. And I think you'd probably have to just put theme 12 miscellaneous. And maybe you could even add more once you go through those miscellaneous themes there. So I'm going to go and just, we're not going to do a read through of the whole chapter like we previously did, because now we're in the nuts and bolts. So we're going to go through just a proverb at a time. Some of these proverbs, they'll carry across a couple of verses. Many of them are just one verse. They're short little sayings. And so let's jump into it. Father, just want to pray that you'll give us the wisdom that we crave, that we'll be able to feast at the house of wisdom. And thank you so much for arranging this for us, putting this in the Word. Your Word is not just about the big picture things. It's also about the little day-to-day things. And these proverbs situate us. They align us with the application of what you want, what your will is for our lives. So, Father, help us to learn, help us to grow, and help us to flourish. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, chapter 10, verse 1. A wise child makes a father rejoice, but a foolish child is a grief to his mother. Now, some of these are self-evident. I mean, a wise child makes a father rejoice, but a foolish child is a grief to his mother. And, what do we get out of this? Well, it starts off, you're contrasting a wise child and a foolish child. One makes a father rejoice, and the other one is grief to his mother. So is it because mothers have more of an emotional bond? That's not necessarily true. I have a very strong emotional bond with my children, but maybe it's like these could be interchangeable, father and mother. Like the father and the mother would rejoice at a wise child, and the father and mother would grieve at a foolish child. But what is it about bring grief? Like obviously they still love the child, but when you're a parent, as I've discovered, you have great expectations for your children, and when they fail to, like for example, just Victor, he loves to read, but sometimes when he starts to read, go through his reading books, and we've got these books that are teaching him to read, he'll get through one, and then the second one he's like, I just don't want to read. And I'm like, but you just wanted to read, you said you wanted to read. And he will be adamant, like, and it'll be like pulling teeth to get him through the next page, like page by page of the second book, because we do 2 books a day. They're called Bob's books. And so, you got to try and make it fun. You got to try and make it interesting. You got to bribe. You've got to cajole. You've got to do whatever you can to get this second book read, page by page, word by word. And so, yeah, like when he's being foolish, it is a grief to his mother or to me. When he is, following instructions and stuff, it's so, like, it's easy street. And nowhere is this more apparent than when a child can't understand properly. Like, and I'm talking, when Victor wasn't able to understand proper commands and wasn't able to communicate, things were different. Things were very different and difficult. And Erina is just coming out of that stage. She's starting to understand now. We're able to have conversations, like on really small conversations. But in that time where she's just clinging, she can't understand when you're saying wait and stuff like that. And you're trying to say, look, if you just wait 2 minutes, your food will be ready. But she can't. No, she's like, I know that if I scream, food comes to me. Well, it's going to come to you when it's ready, not when you scream enough. And so she's not quite figuring that stuff out. So that's grief, So a wise child versus a foolish child. And foolishness is about knowing nothing. So it's like that toddler that doesn't know how to understand or anything like that and can't communicate. So, yeah, that makes sense. Children are the window into contrast in an amazing way. That's why Jesus says, suffer the little children to come to me. Okay, so we've got children in verse 1 and wisdom and foolishness. Okay, let's go to verse 2. Treasures gained by wickedness do not profit, but righteousness delivers from mortal danger. Treasures gained by wickedness, and that word wickedness there's a thing here, that you get by dishonesty. So, the English version says that you gain by dishonesty. But righteousness delivers from mortal danger. So righteousness means honesty. So dishonesty doesn't profit. Honesty delivers from mortal danger or death. Okay. Okay. I want to meditate on each one of these. So treasures gained by wickedness do not profit. Well, in a sense, they can for a short term. So in the short term, treasures gained by whatever means profit, but do they? Okay, so if you're thinking about this, you might profit financially, but are you profiting morally? Are you profiting? Is your character profiting? If you use dishonesty, are you building up your intellect and your mental prowess, your physical capacity? Probably not. So there's always trade-offs. I like fantasy fiction at times, and in a lot of fantasy fictions, there's a rule where magic has a price, always has a price, and dishonesty, I guess, is what this is saying. Dishonesty has a price. The price is that you're trading off something else that you could be developing, and so short-term gain is not long-term profit. That's how I would say this. So, but righteousness honesty delivers from mortal danger, because honesty stores up treasure in heaven. Okay, so that's a good one that we could stick on the fridge. hopefully many of us don't need to be reminded of that, but that's one that you could share with someone who is struggling with how they're going to conduct themselves. Verse 3, Yahweh satisfies the appetite of the righteous, but he thwarts the craving of the wicked. Yahweh satisfies he doesn't allow to go hungry, the righteous. He doesn't not allow he will fill the needs. And this is like the Beatitudes, where those who hunger and thirst after righteousness will be filled. But he thwarts the craving, so he thrusts away, refuses to satisfy the appetite of the wicked, the cravings of the wicked. So I guess, in the idea of the God-shaped hole, the wicked always want more. It's never satisfied. The wicked are never satisfied. There's always one more job. One more heist to pull, and so there's never that satisfying contentment. Contentment can only be found in Yahweh. Yahweh is the only one that satisfies that God-shaped hole. And so when you hunger and thirst for the thing that the hole is, which is God, then you're satisfied forever. But if you try to fill that hole, there will always be gaps. If you try to fill that hole with something other than Yahweh, the God-shaped hole, then there will always be gaps. I like it. And number 4, verse 4, the one who is lazy becomes poor, but the one who works diligently becomes wealthy. That's self-evident. And it's good to teach kids. The one who is lazy becomes poor. We haven't done this yet, but I guess we have, because it's something we're not going to do. But we're not going to attach an allowance to Victor doing his chores, because those are things that you should be doing anyway. Mummy and Daddy don't get an allowance for doing housework. What we will do is we will encourage him to pursue outside endeavors, maybe making something and selling it, or something, and that's how he will get his money. So if we just give him money out of our household budget, then it's just trading hands within the house. It's like, I don't ask my wife, can I borrow some money or can I have some money to buy something? Because it's our money. And so, yeah, we want to teach him to be diligent with his time and with his ambitions to become wealthy and add wealth to the household, not to just change hands in creative accounting. So working diligently, it's a good one to teach him. Verse 5, the one who gathers crops in the summer is a wise son, but the one who sleeps during the harvest is a son who brings shame to himself. So summer is the harvest season in Israel, so you've got the spring is where the crops become ripe, and then they harvest all through the summer until autumn. And so the one who gathers crops in the summer is a wise son, because you're bringing the fruit of the field in. The one who sleeps during the harvest is the one who brings shame to himself. Is a son who brings shame to himself. Well, he brings shame to himself definitely because he is ruining his own reputation. I notice it doesn't say shame to his family. It could be, actually, so they've supplied these words to himself. So it could be shame to his father. And I'd actually favor that, because as a wise son, it seems to be the familial relationship. And so the father would definitely be, you could think of the parable of I like to call it the parable of the good father. Many call it the parable of the prodigal son. The focus is on the father, not the sons. But yeah, you've got a son who is quite lazy there. Verse 6, blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the speech of the wicked conceals violence. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the speech of the wicked conceals violence. There's a few things. So, but the mouth of the mouth or the speech of the righteous, of the wicked conceals violence. And that word, So it could be violence covers the mouth of the wicked. So blessing and violence are in opposition to one another. So blessing has the meaning of gifts, enrichments, rewards. So being righteous brings rewards on your head, whereas violence is on the head of the wicked. Violence is on. How would I see that? So I guess the righteous, because they crave only God, like because they're satisfied. When you're satisfied, you can have abundance. When you're satisfied, and I see satisfaction as like a love tank. Like our heart is like a love tank. So satisfaction is when there's no holes in that. So whatever comes in is just abundance now. It's like it's overflow. Like it's not draining out. The wicked have the holes still in there. So whatever goes in comes out. And there's violence. There's how do you acquire if you're constantly running out? Well, you have to use violence. You have to in a panicky way seek to fill it. And so blessings are on the head. There's overflow. There's overflow for the righteous. Okay, verse 7. The memory of the righteous is... And if you got any thoughts on any of these, please put them in the comments. I'm more than happy to see alternate understandings. I'm just feeding out how this is coming to me. I'll just going to check on... No live comments on... At least on YouTube. And nothing's Facebook, and nothing's coming on YouTube, which comes through here. So the next one is the memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the reputation of the wicked will rot. So the memory of the righteous, okay, yeah. So I'm thinking that this memory is not your memory, but the reputational memory. We tend to remember the deeds of the noble, like they end up getting exaggerated. I just did a series on Mary, and Mary is a person who's righteous in the Bible. She when the angel came to her and said, "You're going to give birth to a son while you're a virgin, unwed," she's like, "As the Lord has said, let it happen to me." And that's where she, is honored for that choice. It doesn't mean that she was perfect. There's other things, but over time, this woman and her nobility, it became a myth where they're like, no, she was a virgin for all of her days, and she was sinless, and she went straight to heaven either at her death or like these are things that develop later on, and to the point where some would like her elevated to be like co-redeemer with Jesus. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that escalated, like even over 2,000 years is too quickly. I mean, she's a girl. She was a girl, and real things happened to her. But like, look at what happens to the reputation of the righteous. It ends up getting exaggerated in these ways that they couldn't imagine would have happened. But look at what happens to a wicked person. I mean, like, Hitler is like, these days, everything that you hate is Hitler. Like that, at least people who are on one wing of politics, they just label and affix the term Hitler. So people who have a poor reputation, it rots even further. So the poor reputation of the wicked will rot. And this is important because, like, reputation is something that you develop yourself, really. Like you get to be, I mean, people can tarnish your reputation, but you can hold your head high. And people who are seen, in a, I guess, where people have tried to tarnish the reputation, it can always be lifted up when the true facts come out. So yeah, this is an important one. So reputation is something that you can either pass on with blessing or pass on with rot. Verse 8, the wise person accepts instructions, but the one who speaks foolishness will come to ruin. The wise person, yeah, okay, this is something we've seen in the opening chapters several times. A wise person accepts instructions. Like, just to think of an example, who has built an IKEA something from IKEA. Like if you're building something from IKEA, a wise person will read the instructions, like seriously. But a foolish person, someone who speaks foolishness, oh, she'll be right. I'll get it. Now, where's that Allen key? Like, because we don't have enough Allen keys. We've got like a million of them. But so this idea that a wise person will read the instructions and a foolish person will come to ruin. I have been a foolish person when it comes to putting things together. And sometimes you're like, oh, I've created a hole. I've created a hole by screwing the thing in a place that there wasn't even supposed to be a hole. So it really does pay to read the instructions. And yeah, these things are not intuitive. So life is even more so. We have, like, what's the instructions? A wise person will read an instruction book, the manual for life. A foolish person will just speak as if they know everything, and it's to their ruin, because this is the way of life, what we're reading today. Verse 9, the one who conducts himself in integrity will live securely, but the one who behaves perversely will be found out. So the one who conducts himself with integrity will have... have you ever done something that you didn't want to be found out about? And how did that make you feel? How did you feel for the time that, like, there's this part of you that's like, every time someone wants to ask you something, it's like, are they going to talk? Like, did they find out? What is it? And there's this thing jumps in your chest. Like, did they figure it out? Did they find me out? And so if you want to be secure from that, just don't do something that's going to cause that. The one who behaves perversely will be found out. Well, eventually, in the judgment, you'll be found out, definitely. But if you behave perversely in a... the Hebrew means perverts his ways. So that means it's not just you. It's not a one-time behavior that you've done. When you do something wrong, you set yourself up to think you can do that same behavior over and over again. And so if you behave perversely, you will eventually be found out just by virtue of probability of the numbers game. You'll eventually do it in a stupid way, or you'll forget to do the thing that, like someone will be walking past when you do the thing. Someone will be doing, someone will find you out. Like if you are stealing, you'll eventually do it in front of someone or in front of a camera. Yeah. So that's it. If you want to avoid these things, don't do the thing that's going to make you feel bad. Verse 10, the one who winks his eye causes trouble. The one who speaks foolishness will come to ruin. Yep. The one who winks his eye causes trouble. The one who speaks foolishness will... So I understand the second part. That's that's a repeat of the second line in verse 8. The one who winks his eye, so Karatz describes a person who habitually winks his eye maliciously as a secretive sign to those conspiring evil. So someone who is like a signal, like a lookout, a signaler, winks his eye. So, this one doesn't have a contrast. This is just saying two things. The one who winks his eye causes trouble, and the one who speaks foolishness will come to ruin. I guess these are both about the same thing. So, gives trouble, yep. I think that is self-explanatory. They're both of those lines are about someone who is doing something they shouldn't be doing. Verse 11. The teaching of the righteous is a fountain of life. Love it. Love that imagery. I love it. The teaching of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the speech of the wicked conceals violence. So here we've got violence again. Violence is I think at the heart of people who have lust. Now, lust, I'm not talking lust sexual necessarily. Lust is the feeling when you have that need to fill a gap in you that can only be filled by God. That's lust. If you have the opposite of that, you have rest. Okay, so you've got substance and absence. The absence of rest is lust. You have rest, you have contentment, you have peace when you are filled with when the God-shaped hole is filled with God. And so the teaching of the righteous is a fountain of life because you have the fountain of life in you. If you're righteous, it's not because of you, it's because who you have living in you. And that's Jesus. So the teaching of the righteous is a fountain of life. Its life is just flowing out of abundantly. It's kind of like the one that we read a little bit earlier where it's talking about the blessings are on the head of the righteous and so on. Or no, the Lord satisfies the appetite of the righteous because you're filled. You're patched up. There's nowhere for it to leak out. It can only go forward in a way that blesses people. And so the teaching of the righteous is a fountain of life. I love that imagery. The Hebrew literally says a fountain of life is the mouth of the righteous. So the mouth of the righteous is constantly giving life. The mouth of the wicked is giving violence, which is the absence of life. It's death. It's destruction. It's theft. And we've talked about that. We've talked about absence and substance over the weeks. Verse 12: hatred stirs up dissension, but love covers all transgressions. Hatred stirs up dissension. So, what is hatred? What is hatred? It's devaluing of people. It's denying the worth that is evident in people. And so, like the hatred is stirs up dissension. Dissension it really means division. It really means trouble and strife. And hatred, the lowering of people's value, other people's value, the devaluing of other people, rejecting other people. This is what I understand by hatred. I've said to people, "You hate me," and they're like, "No, I don't." And I'm like, "No, but you value me lower than yourself. You value me lower. You value me lower than what a person ought to be. Not even yourself. Just you value me as a lower individual because of the things that you've done to me." And so they don't understand when I'm saying you hate, and that's what I've meant. If I was to do the things you have done to someone else, I would hate them. I would have to hate them because how could I do that? I'm talking about some very nasty things. Some of them I'll be sharing tomorrow, at least earlier things that have happened to me. I'll be sharing tomorrow in my testimony. I'll be teaching, giving my testimony at Border Church tomorrow. So you can watch that here online, or you can watch that in person. Come in person. We're doing Indian food for lunch, so love to have you there. But yeah, so hatred stirs up dissension because it's now creating a class system of value, of differing values, whereas love covers all transgressions. So this idea of it's covering, it acts like love acts like forgiveness. Love acts as a blanket. Love acts as a means of bringing people up to value. And when you feel valued, you don't, like, if you feel devalued and you're not internally satisfied in God, you will seek to increase your value, and usually that's transactional. You're like, well, there's X amount, like there's out of the 100% of value that's out there, I have less of it. There's not an equality of value, so I must increase my value at the expense of someone else's value. That's where violence comes in. That's where dissension comes in. But love covers all, because it says no, you're all equally valuable. Now, that doesn't mean we're all equally of the same merit or the same gifts. That's different. That's a different thing. And those, having certain gifts or not having gifts, and those sort of things, like the different qualities we have, doesn't increase or decrease our value. That is entirely different. So our identity is where value is found. Purpose is you can have different purposes and still be equally valuable. This is love. Love it covers all transgressions. It means it doesn't see the transgressions. It doesn't take the transgressions and equate, just like we don't take the merit and make it an increase in value. The transgressions don't result in are not perceived as a decrease in value. Value is external to behavior. It's what It's what you're valued as by the person who made you. Value is fixed by the Creator, and the value that you have been priced at is Jesus, the Son of God. Isn't that amazing? You are priced at the Son of God. That's why I don't like any idea that teaches limited atonement or, double predestination. I did a whole series on Calvinism recently. But, like, the value that the Creator has fixed on every soul out there is Jesus Christ. Now, whether you accept that value, whether you accept that price or not, is another matter. But you've been valued at that level. And so there's nothing you could do to increase your value. You can't be Jesus plus. Jesus is already all there is. And you can't be Jesus minus. You can't detract from Jesus. Jesus is all there is. And so, you can't make God love you more. You can't make God love you less. You can just embrace the love that is there. That's some good gospel teaching out of Proverbs 10, verse 12 there. Okay, we're about the halfway, not even at the halfway point. Let's pick this up. We've got to pick this up. Wisdom is found in the words of the discerning person, but the one who lacks wisdom will be disciplined. So wisdom is found in the words of the discerning person. Okay, so, and disciplined is supposed to lead you to wisdom. So whether you accept the discipline or not is going to be another matter. So it says in verse 16, like in the Hebrew, it's a rod is for the back of the one lacking heart. And the rod is there not as a punitive, but as a restorative. God's punishment is always intended to restore until the final punishment, which is honoring people's choices. And he'll take life away from those who've rejected life, and obviously he will have already given life to those who've accepted. Verse 14, those who are wise store up knowledge, but foolish speech leads to imminent destruction. Those who are wise store up knowledge. Okay, so we've talked about this in the introduction. This is similar to something we saw early in Proverbs. That they store it up. They store it up not for themselves, but to pass on. So it's a storehouse for disseminating further to other people. And they treasure it, but foolish speech leads to imminent destruction. And it does, it doesn't necessarily mean your destruction. It can mean the destruction of other people. Foolish speech destroys people around you, not just you. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Verse 15, the wealth of a rich person is like a fortified city, but the poor are brought to ruin by their poverty. Okay, so the wealth of a rich person is like a fortified city. It doesn't say wise here, so a city of his strength. Now, is it a rich person? So this is a truly rich person. I mean, I was talking to someone who about lotto winners. They're not rich people. They accidentally fall into a bit of wealth. And if they are truly a rich person, they will treat it like a fortified city. But people who develop wealth through wisdom, because I mean obviously wisdom is at the backdrop of all of this, they will be like a fortified city. It will be they will have done it. How do you build a city? You start with walls, and then you build out the city. You might build it in pieces, so you have the old quarter. Then that becomes the old quarter when the new quarter is built. And so you keep building and adding on, but you're constantly building walls around it. So it's organic growth. You don't just build a city. I mean, the Chinese do. They build cities in the middle of nowhere with no inhabitants at the moment. But even that's smart, because they know that they'll have they expect to have the population to fill them at some point. So the poor are brought to ruin by their poverty. So their poverty becomes a cycle, because it's a state of mind. So poverty is a state of mind. I can see this well. Like, this is in line with stuff I've heard from Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey's got some incredible, from a Christian perspective, wealth and financial stuff. Verse 16: the reward which the righteous receive is life. The recompense which the wicked receive is judgment. The reward. So, okay, that first one is self-evident. The reward which the righteous receive is life. The recompense which the wicked receive is judgment. So this word for judgment here if I look down, there's different words for judgment. So it's punishment. It's not just it means that it's condemnation. So, and it's recompense. So a reward and recompense. So you get a reward either way, and that's self-evident. So there's a kind of big picture there. Verse 17: the one who heeds instruction is on the way to life, but the one who rejects rebuke goes astray. We talked about this quite a bit in the last few chapters, where heeding instruction, even if it's painful, is effective to life. It's conducive to living. But the person who rejects rebuke, they're going to fall away. The one who conceals hatred utters lies. The one who spreads slander is certainly a fool. Yeah, well, that's true. The one who conceals hatred utters lies. So you're not being authentic if you conceal hatred and we talked about hatred. If you internally devalue someone to a level lower than the price that God has given, but even just the price that you would consider yourself or someone else, then you're uttering lies. You're being fake. You're being inauthentic. The one who spreads slander is certainly a fool. So you've got the contrast here is between a person who conceals hatred and the other one is someone who revels in it, and one is a liar and the other one's a fool. So you've got both of them are not. So some of these proverbs are not contrasting of good and bad, but contrasting of bad and worse, and that's one of those. Number 19, verse 19. When words abound, transgression is inevitable, but the one who restrains his words is wise. When words abound, transgression is inevitable, but the one who restrains... Okay, so when there's free-flowing words, when you're profuse with your words and not careful, so it's free-flowing and lacking care. I know of people who are... They speak with at the speed of faster than they think, so it's a train, they're just on the train, and once they start speaking, they can't assess whether they're saying the right things or what's going on. And transgression is inevitable. That means your own transgression or other people's transgression can be inevitable from that. The one who restrains his words is wise. So less is more. That could be said. Verse 20, what the righteous say is like the best silver, but what the wicked think is of little value. So what the righteous say, which is, obviously they will say little, okay? I think these two are deliberately buttressed up against, not always are their theme, but I think these two buttress up against each other well, because it's saying a wise person uses few words. And when they do speak, it's valuable. It's like silver. It's like, let me hang on those words. But a wicked person, because what they say exactly what they think, and what they think is worthless. It's of little value because all they're doing is saying what they think, and it's not thought out. So the word "think" there is the heart of the wicked. So it's just free flowing. There's no filter. It's stream of consciousness was the word I was trying to say before. And so you don't value that because they're just saying whatever's coming to their mind. And sometimes there's humor in that, and there's a place for it in humor. Our youth definitely have some fun with those sort of stream of consciousness things. Okay, verse 21. The teaching of the righteous feeds many, but fools die for lack of wisdom. The teaching of the righteous feeds many. Okay, so this is that abundance, because you've got the love tank filled, patched up, the God-shaped hole is patched up. What flows in then can pour out. And so the teaching of the righteous can feed many, but fools die for lack of wisdom. Fools go hungry. Fools die of thirst. Fools die of hunger for wisdom. The blessing from Yahweh makes a person rich, verse 22. The blessing from Yahweh makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. Okay, so this is another one of those ones that doesn't have a contrast. It's two parts of the same thing. The blessing from Yahweh makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. Okay, so let me just think that one through. So okay, it's the word baraka. Uh, the blessing, baraka. The bless. So the word blessing just means I've talked about this. It's divine empowerment to fulfill intrinsic function. So it's God's power to fulfill, and it can make a person rich. Now, obviously, this is in the context of, you could insert the word wise person. So it has the ability to make rich if you're wise, and he adds no sorrow to it. Sorrow. Yeah, he adds no sorrow. I'm going to put a question mark and have a read up a bit more on that one. He adds no sorrow, because this word sorrow can mean toil. He has no toil. I guess it's just one of those things that God's pouring out blessings, that if you're wise, you'll have that fortified city. You'll use what God gives you, and it doesn't mean rich. We think of the word rich often in financial terms. It's rich in wisdom, rich in abundance of mental growth and physical growth, etc. Verse 23: carrying out a wicked scheme is enjoyable to a fool, and so is wisdom for the one who has discernment. I like this one. So there's joy, and you can think of, I often say, happiness comes from the word happening. You are happy because of what is happening. And so there is an inherent happiness to carrying out a scheme. If you've planned it out and thought it out, there can be some happiness when you see that pulled off. But it's saying that the same type of happiness for evil, for a fool, that a fool will have, is going to be found in simplicity by someone who is adding wisdom. Okay, who is marinating in wisdom. They're going to have joy, and joy is different. I would call that joy. Joy is different to happening, because joy is about a state of mind, and so just by marinating in wisdom, there can be more pleasure and joy and happiness even than for a wise person than carrying out an evil scheme. Verse 24: what the wicked fears will come on him. What the righteous desire will be granted. Okay, remember, these are probabilities, not promises. It doesn't mean like you just claim it and 100% it's going to happen. There are people who've claimed this and not, but you're setting yourself. So what the wicked fears will come on him. So, there's that, was it JFK? The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And so fear places you in fear is the absence of love, by the way. Fear is the absence of love. Hatred is not the absence of love. Hatred is just as passionate as love. God hates sin, for example. But fear is the absence of love. So fear places you in a mindset of absence, and what the wicked fears will come on him. Now, it's not just thinking of the final judgment. It's thinking of things that, like, if you're wicked, you will place yourself in a position where you're outside of God's protection, you're outside of God's abundance, and so things that you fear, which would be standard fears, will have a greater chance of coming upon you. What the righteous desire will be granted, because the righteous are walking in abundance, they're walking in the blessings of God, and so they have you have the king's ear. That's good. Verse 25, that is one you could claim, in the sense that, God, I'm walking abundantly, and I claim that, you've given all these abundant promises. Just make sure that you're praying in the will of God. You're praying in the will of God so what you desire will be aligned with what God wants for you. When the storm passes through, the wicked are swept away, but the righteous are an everlasting foundation. Well, this is, Jesus said this when he was talking about the one who builds his house on the sand versus the one who builds his house on the rock. That one's very self-evident. If you prepare yourself, then on a solid foundation, you will endure the storm. Verse 26, like vinegar to the teeth and like smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who send him. Okay, so it's biting. The sluggard, I have worked with people who are lazy. I've probably been a lazy person in my younger years at times to people, especially to ask my mum. Uh, it is not a pleasure to work with a sluggard. It is not a pleasure to work around that person. They are a thorn in the side, and just like smoke in the eyes. Just imagining it right now, so you've got that. I use a burner to burn the weeds and especially the bindies, and so when that catches and you get that smoke in your eyes, you're just like, oh, ugh. And that's that irritating, unpleasant feeling. And vinegar on the teeth is very similar there. So these are good similes, very good similes, and relatable today. They're not like archaic similes. They're timeless. Fearing Yahweh, this is verse 27. Fearing Yahweh prolongs life. Fearing is respecting, it's reverencing, and even being terrified. There's a terror there. I'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Fearing Yahweh prolongs life, but the lifespan of the wicked will be shortened. Okay, yeah. I mean, it'll prolong life for eternity in terms of everlasting life, and the lifespan of the wicked will be shortened, definitely, because they won't have eternity. They will be, they'll be destroyed. But even in this life, in terms of probabilities, the fearing Yahweh does, there are studies done that people who fear God and attend church regularly and follow, are obedient to the precepts of the Bible, have a longer lifespan and not just a longer lifespan, but a greater quality of life, greater abundance. They flourish for longer than people who abandon these types of ideas. And you can even look at countries, forget just people, but countries that are built on principles. And now a lot of countries were built on those principles are walking away from them. But countries that were built on principles, I mean, the Magna Carta is based, like it's derived out of the Bible. It's derived out of biblical law. Common law is derived out of biblical law. The United States is the country of most abundance today, and it is built on Christian principles. Australia, as well, where I live. But you look at where's the Soviet Union now? Where is all of that power? They rejected God. Where are they now? You might think, well, China's wealthy. No, China's a paper dragon when it comes to its wealth. There is a abundance of the appearance of wealth, but it doesn't translate down to the people for the first in the first case. It doesn't translate to quality of life for the people, and it doesn't translate to freedom for those same people. So yeah, I think you can see this on multiple levels. Verse 28: the hope of the righteous is joy, but the expectation of the wicked will remain unfulfilled. The hope of the righteous is joy. Yeah. So the hope, the expectancy, what they imagine will happen. So it contrasts the hopes of the righteous and the wicked. The righteous will see their hopes fulfilled, and it's regarding God's justice. So the hope of vindication will be fulfilled. Like both righteous and wicked desire judgment. Need judgment. Only the righteous desire it, because the righteous judgment is vindication. For the wicked, they hope to avoid judgment, but they will get it, and judgment for them will be condemnation. So the expectation of the wicked, which is to avoid judgment, will remain unfulfilled. Verse 29: the way of Yahweh is like a stronghold for the upright, but it is destruction to evildoers. The way of Yahweh is like a stronghold for the upright. Well, where are strongholds built? They're built on rocks, on solid foundations. This reminds me of Jesus says, to the one who falls on me will be broken, but the one who I fall on will be crushed. And so it's a stronghold for the upright. The upright fall on it and are built up and are strong, but it is destruction to the evildoers. So the upright live within it. The evildoers are destroyed by it. Verse 30, the righteous will never be moved, but the wicked will not inhabit. The righteous will never be moved, but the wicked will not inhabit the land. Okay, so this is talking about the land. It's interesting because, the wickedness of Israel resulted in them being exiled. And but the people who came in were not able to inhabit that land. The Babylonians were not able to inhabit that land either, and it was given back. So this is talking about the covenant blessings. This is transferred to the new, the new Canaan, which is where New Jerusalem lives, which is in heaven, which will be transferred to earth after the millennium. The righteous will never be moved out of that. In fact, you know that right now you are seated in heavenly places. Your name is in the Commonwealth of Israel. Your name is on the roll. You are a citizen of heaven right now, right today. And so you can't be moved from that. A righteous person can't be moved from that. The wicked will not inhabit that land. Verse 31, the speech of the righteous bears the fruit of wisdom, but the one who speaks perversion will be destroyed. The speech of the righteous bears the fruit of wisdom, but the one who speaks perversion will be destroyed. I like this for a couple of reasons, because I like whenever the Bible talks about fruit. Fruit contains seeds that then can grow into trees, that then can grow fruit, that can grow seeds, and so on. It's multiplying. The speech of the righteous multiplies wisdom, right? Because you pass on wisdom to someone else, and if they're a righteous person, they will pass it on to other people. But the one who speaks to perversion, which is absence of or corruption of what God has given us, will be destroyed, and they will cause destruction to other people. Finally, verse 32, we're landing this. Wow, these chapters are going to be long, I think. We might end up, especially when I get guests on, these might balloon out of an hour. The lips of the righteous, because I'm going to have some guests for these chapters coming up. I've got someone, all but confirmed for Sunday, and I might even get Alina on one of these days as well, after the kids go to bed. The lips of the righteous know what is pleasing, but the speech of the wicked is perverse. So this is very similar to the one above, but now it's talking about the lips of the righteous know what is pleasing, pleasant, but the speech of the wicked is perverse. The speech of the wicked people are self-absorbed, because wickedness is selfishness. To be wicked doesn't mean you've got the moustache and it's curled up and you're walking like Dick Dastardly and that's not what wickedness is. With the black and white stripes. Wickedness is this idea where you have taken focus off of others and particularly the great other, which is God. You have taken focus off of that onto yourself. And so the lips of the righteous know what is pleasing because they consider the thoughts, feelings, and desires of other people. Whereas the speech of the wicked is insular, it's self-absorbed, and it's perverse, it's corrupting, because they are not tuned in to what is pleasant. Well, that's a good chapter there. That's a good 32 Proverbs. We got through 32 Proverbs today. I might do a running count every day as we go. So 32 Proverbs down. So I hope that's been a great meditation for you. If you've had your own thoughts on any of these, if you think I've missed something, I am very capable of missing things. So please put it in the comments. I'd love to reference it in a future chat. Have a great evening. It is the Shabbat. It's Sabbath. So for those of you who recognize that, I hope that it is as always a blessing for you. For those who don't, I hope it's a blessing for you anyway, because God has instituted. I mean, do you know God put in the heart of the Ten Commandments, you've got to take a day off. I think that's amazing. God said, I want you to take a day off and rest. It's not we worship communally on the Sabbath. You don't have to. It's the commandment doesn't say it's it's a unique day of worship. You should be worshiping every day, but it's a day of rest. So I hope that this day is a day of rest for you, wherever you are. Some of you might be overseas and it's not yet Sabbath for you. Blessings when it comes to you. Let's close with prayer. Father, let our lips be full of wisdom. Let our love tanks be full of you. Just come in and fuse into the God-shaped whole of our lives. Father, we've read some Proverbs here. Some of them are challenging. Some of them are eye-opening. Father, we just want to be like that wise person. We want to imitate less and less that person of folly. And so, Father, I just pray that you'll help us to take the temporal and eternal lessons out of this and apply them to our lives, and not just apply them, but share them, pass them on. That's our duty as wise people, is to pass these lessons on. May we do that today, and until we come together again, in Jesus' name, Amen. All right, well, that's it. And again, if you want to watch, I'll be sharing I've been requested. I've given bits of my testimony over time at Border Church. I've been requested to do it in a solid sense, but I won't be giving my whole testimony. I'm almost 42 years old, so there's no way I could fit that into an hour. So I'm going to give the testimony up to the time I met Jesus, and I will be. So I will be leaving other parts for perhaps future messages where I can share about my discipleship journey, my ministry journey. My ministry journey is ongoing. So let's see what happens. At the moment, I could see at least a discipleship journey. But tomorrow is something you won't want to miss. I'll be sharing my battles with childhood loneliness, being bullied. I'll be sharing about the depression and anxiety I had as a young adult, and how I was searching for answers. I was searching in spiritualism and other Eastern religions before I found Christianity. And then when I became a Christian, it was because I was logically convinced of it before I met the Savior. And so I'll be talking about what that sort of journey is like, and how I was known to God before he was truly known to me. Have a great sleep. Have a great day if you watch this tomorrow. I look forward to sharing with you some more. We will see you